She noticed it first in the mirror. The line of her jaw looked sharper. The waistband that had always pinched felt loose. For the first time in years, Margaret liked what she saw. She was 54, a secondary school teacher who spent her days on her feet, evenings marking papers, weekends worrying about the next term. Life was busy, predictable, ordinary, and that's exactly how she liked it. So when her weight began to drift downward, she took it as a small reward. No diets, no gym memberships, just results. Her colleagues said she looked healthier. Her daughters joked she finally discovered the secret to staying slim after 50. Margaret laughed along, tucking away the faint unease that something about it didn't make sense. It's probably just stress, she told herself. Maybe menopause. We all rationalize change, especially when it looks like an improvement. At school, she was the dependable one, covering classes when others called in sick, staying late, forgetting lunch more often than she remembered it. If she felt tired, she blamed long hours or the noise of 30 teenagers. By spring, her clothes were 2 sizes down. She'd lost almost a stone since Christmas. Friends congratulated her. She smiled, half embarrassed, half proud. But when I met her months later on the acute medical ward, that same weight loss was written across every system in her body. As physicians, we're taught early, unintentional weight loss is never good news. It's one of those phrases that changes the temperature of a conversation instantly. It can point to anything from thyroid disease or depression to heart failure or hidden cancer. But patients rarely see it that way. Weight loss is celebrated, compliments rewarded. Very few stop to ask, why now? Why without trying? In hindsight, the signs had started gently. Margaret often skipped breakfast, tea instead of toast. She felt full too quickly, a strange tightness after small meals. Sometimes she blamed it on stress, other times on the weather. A faint burn climbed her chest after coffee. She kept antacids in her handbag and chewed them between classes. They worked, until they didn't. By June, she noticed her energy fading. The walk from the car park to her classroom left her breathless. She began to sit during lessons, chalk trembling slightly between her fingers. Her colleagues offered concern. She brushed it away. Just tired. End of term. When the school photographer returned that summer, her staff portrait startled her. Her cheeks had hollowed. The sparkle she'd always had behind her eyes seemed dimmer. She promised herself she'd see her GP after exam season. It was another 3 months before she kept that promise. Her GP, a calm woman who'd known her for years, frowned at the weight chart on her screen. You've lost 9 kilos since your last visit. Really? Margaret smiled. That much? And you weren't trying? No, not really. Any change in appetite? Any pain? Heartburn? Just a bit of discomfort here sometimes. She pressed her upper abdomen. The GP examined her. Mild tenderness, nothing obvious, but experience spoke louder than findings. I'd like to do some blood tests, she said, and I'm going to refer you to the hospital for further checks, just to be safe. Margaret hesitated. Is it serious? Probably not, the doctor replied, masking the worry in her tone. But unexplained weight loss is something we always investigate. A week later, her results returned. Mild anemia, hemoglobin 10.2 grams per deciliter, low ferritin, normal thyroid, normal glucose. Iron deficiency anemia in a woman past menopause means one thing until proven otherwise. Blood loss from somewhere it shouldn't be. Her GP arranged an urgent referral to the hospital's rapid access clinic for further assessment. That's where I first read her name on the list. She looked smaller than I expected, gentle, polite, clutching her notes. She apologized for wasting our time. I've just been tired, doctor. It's probably nothing. Her eyes had that mix of optimism and fear I've seen countless times. We repeated bloods, arranged a CT scan of her chest and abdomen, and booked an endoscopy through the gastro team. From that point, I watched from the internal medicine side, coordinating, interpreting results, supporting the process, the way physicians do when the problem starts as non-specific and soon becomes anything but. In hospitals, unexplained weight loss is like a whisper that pulls every specialty into the room. We think about everything: malabsorption, endocrine disease, heart failure, infection, malignancy. Most of the time, we hope it's benign, but occasionally that whisper becomes a diagnosis that changes everything. By the time her endoscopy was scheduled, the weight loss had become undeniable. She had to buy new clothes. Even her wedding ring slid loosely on her finger. Her daughters were starting to worry. "Mum, this isn't normal. You look exhausted." "It's fine, love. The doctors are just being thorough." But deep down, she was afraid. She had always been the strong one, the one who kept calm when others panicked. Now she was the patient everyone was quietly worrying about. I wasn't in the procedure room that morning, but I reviewed her results later that day. The report was brief, as they often are, but the phrasing was unmistakable. Irregular ulcerated lesion along the lesser curvature of the stomach. Biopsies taken. That single line said everything. When I saw her name on the ward list again 2 days later, I knew what we were likely facing. The pathology confirmed it a week later: gastric adenocarcinoma, stomach cancer. Her GP had arranged a follow-up call to discuss the findings, but the system had already escalated the case to the hospital's upper GI team for staging and treatment planning. That's when she was readmitted, and that's when I saw her properly for the first time. She sat upright in the hospital bed, a dressing gown draped around her shoulders, the pale paper wristband loose around her thin wrist. Her daughters sat on either side of her, early 30s, anxious, protective. I introduced myself as one of the internal medicine consultants overseeing her admission. "Margaret, I've reviewed your results. I understand this is a lot to take in." She nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. "They said it's cancer." "Yes," I replied softly. "The biopsies confirm that there is a growth in your stomach. The good news is that we've caught it before it spread widely. That means treatment can still be curative." Her eyes lifted slightly, hope flickering through fear. "Curative?" "Yes, it's serious, but treatable. You'll meet the surgical and oncology teams today so they can explain everything in detail." Her daughters exchanged a glance that said more than words could. After the consultation, I stepped out into the corridor to type my notes. Every diagnosis like this leaves a quiet heaviness in the room, a silence that lingers long after the door closes. In medicine, you learn to function inside that silence, to stay composed while families crumble just a few feet away. But it never gets easier. The next step was staging, a CT of the chest, abdomen, and pelvis. We needed to know how far it had gone. When the images loaded on the screen, I found myself holding my breath. There it was, the thickened stomach wall, clearly visible, but no liver metastases, no enlarged lymph nodes beyond the regional field, no secondary spread. This was a T2-N1-M0 lesion, early enough for surgery. I called the oncology registrar. "Looks localized, good performance status, fit for curative intent." He nodded. "We'll discuss her at MDT tomorrow." The words curative intent changed everything. Later that afternoon, the upper GI consultant and the specialist nurse sat with her and her family. I joined briefly to support from the medical side. The plan was straightforward but daunting. Neoadjuvant chemotherapy, a few cycles to shrink the tumour. Subtotal gastrectomy, removal of the affected part of the stomach. Adjuvant chemo to follow if recovery allowed. She listened quietly, occasionally glancing at her daughters. "So, you're saying there's hope?" "There's more than hope," the consultant replied gently. "There's a chance to cure this." That night, as I walked through the ward, the lights dimmed to evening mode, monitors beeping softly, nurses exchanging handovers. I passed her room again. She was reading the information leaflet we'd given her. Her daughters were sitting beside her, their faces calmer now. Moments like that remind me why we do this work. Not for the paperwork, not for the endless protocols, but for that sliver of relief in someone's eyes when they realise there's still a future to fight for. 2 weeks later, she began her first cycle. The oncology nurses explained every detail: the infusion pump, the anti-sickness medication, the blood counts. She tolerated it better than expected, though fatigue hit her hard. She lost more weight, but this time for a reason she understood. Her daughters took turns accompanying her to each appointment. They brought soup, soft blankets, books she rarely read. By the third cycle, her repeat CT showed good response. The mass smaller, no new lesions. There's something almost paradoxical about these journeys. A patient can endure months of silent disease with hardly a symptom, but the moment we start treating it, the battle becomes visible. Hair thins, energy fades, but healing has finally begun. Weight loss that once meant danger now meant progress. The body fighting back, not giving in. 6 months after her first appointment, she returned for surgery. I wasn't part of the operating team, but as the on-call physician, I saw her pre-op in the ward. She looked nervous but determined. "I just want to get it out," she said. "That's exactly what we're going to do." Post-op, the surgical notes read, "Subtotal gastrectomy with clear margins, no macroscopic residual disease." In simple terms, they'd removed it all. Recovery was slow, as expected, eating small meals, learning to live with a reduced stomach, monitoring iron and vitamin levels. But she adapted. Within weeks, she was walking down the corridor again, cheeks slightly fuller, eyes brighter. I reviewed her during a ward round one afternoon. She smiled. "You know, doctor, I never thought I'd be happy about gaining weight again." We both laughed, and for the first time, it felt genuine. Weight loss is a story the body tells when words fail. Sometimes it speaks of lifestyle changes or discipline. Other times, as with Margaret, it's a quiet plea for help, a sign that something deep within has gone wrong. She had listened just in time, and because she did, she was alive to tell her story. The first few weeks after major surgery are always delicate, not just physically, but emotionally. For Margaret, every small milestone mattered. The first sip of water, the first walk down the ward corridor, the first night she slept without pain. When I stopped by one morning, she was sitting by the window, sunlight falling across the hospital sheets. A small breakfast tray sat untouched on the table beside her, half a bowl of porridge, 2 spoons eaten. "It's strange," she said. "I used to eat without thinking. Now every bite feels like an effort." "Your stomach's smaller now," I explained. "It'll take time to adjust. Little and often, that's the rule." She nodded, managing a smile. "It's funny. I spent years trying to lose weight. Now I'm trying to keep it." It was an ordinary comment, but it carried the weight of everything she'd been through. Recovery isn't linear. Some days she felt strong enough to walk to the hospital cafe. Other days, even standing left her breathless. She lost more hair from the final round of chemotherapy, her skin pale from anemia. Yet, underneath the exhaustion was a quiet resilience, the kind you only see in patients who've looked mortality in the eye and decided to keep going. Her daughters kept her grounded. They brought home-cooked food in small containers, learned how to blend soups to the perfect texture, reminded her to take supplements. One day during a follow-up review, she mentioned she'd started keeping a diary. "I write down what I eat, how I feel, how grateful I am that I'm still here." She paused. "Before all this, I thought losing weight meant I was finally healthy. Now I know it was my body begging for help." At her 3-month post-op appointment, her scans showed no evidence of residual disease. For the first time in a year, she allowed herself to exhale. I still remember the moment she walked into the outpatient clinic, hair regrowing, colour back in her face, posture confident. She looked like herself again, but somehow lighter, not in body, but in burden. "How are you feeling, Margaret?" "Alive," she said simply, "and hungry." Her sense of humour had returned, always a good prognostic sign. There's a phrase I often tell my patients: your body keeps score. It remembers every imbalance, every strain, every silent struggle. When it begins to lose weight without permission, it's not giving you a gift, it's warning you. Weight loss without trying is one of the body's earliest distress signals, and yet one of the most ignored, because it mimics success, because society praises it, because it looks like control, when in reality, it often means the opposite. She was discharged home with clear guidance. Eat small, frequent meals. Keep protein high. Monitor iron and B12 levels. Attend oncology follow-up every 3 months. For every recovery like hers, there are others who don't make it in time. People who mistake weight loss for progress, who celebrate it instead of question it. They wait until it's too late, when the disease has spread, when appetite is gone completely, when the body has already surrendered. Those are the ones who stay with you long after you leave the hospital. The missed chances, the delayed checkups, the quiet, "I thought it was nothing." That's why I tell this story, because Margaret was one of the lucky ones. She listened just before the silence became irreversible. Her 6-month CT scan was clear again. She'd regained 4 kilos, her blood tests improving, hemoglobin up, ferritin normalizing, nutritional status stable. The oncology team reduced her follow-up frequency and transferred her back to routine surveillance. She brought chocolates for the nurses, a handwritten card that said simply, "Thank you for saving my life." In truth, medicine saved part of it, but awareness saved the rest. It's easy to underestimate subtle symptoms. Unintentional weight loss rarely comes alone. It's often joined by fatigue, loss of appetite, night sweats, or vague discomfort. things that don't sound dramatic enough to trigger alarm, but they add up. They whisper a pattern that doctors are trained to hear, a pattern that often points to what the body can't say aloud. When a patient loses more than 5% of their body weight over 6 to 12 months without trying, we take it seriously. It could be a thyroid problem speeding up metabolism, diabetes causing energy loss, digestive issues like celiac disease or inflammatory bowel disease, heart failure where the body burns energy to survive, or, as in Margaret's case, an underlying cancer slowly stealing nutrients. The causes are many, but the message is one: it's never normal. When I think of Margaret now, I don't remember her as the anxious woman sitting in a hospital gown. I remember her months later, smiling at a clinic review, sipping tea, sharing how she'd returned to teaching part-time. She said something that stayed with me. I used to think health was about how I looked. Now I know it's about how I feel. That line should be printed on every poster in every waiting room. Unintentional weight loss isn't a cosmetic change, it's a clinical clue. It's one of the body's most powerful early warning systems if we're brave enough to listen. And sometimes, listening is what saves a life. It's been 2 years since I first met Margaret. Her hair has grown back, a little shorter and streaked with silver. She still teaches part-time, enjoys gardening, and walks every morning before breakfast. Her appetite has returned. She keeps a small diary, not of calories lost, but of meals enjoyed. Breakfast, porridge with honey, felt good. Lunch, soup and bread, managed the whole bowl. Each entry reads like a quiet victory. When she comes to clinic now, it feels less like a consultation and more like a conversation between old acquaintances. "Doctor, I've gained another kilo," she laughed the last time I saw her. "I'm glad to hear it," I replied. "We like that kind of weight gain." We went through her latest bloods, all normal, the CT scan, clear again, no signs of recurrence. "So that's it then?" she asked. "That's it. Keep doing what you're doing, small meals, regular checks, and listen to your body." Before leaving, she paused at the door. "You know," she said, "I still get scared sometimes. Every time I lose even half a kilo, I start to worry it's back." "That's understandable," I said, "but now you know what to look for, and you won't ignore it again." She smiled. "No, doctor, never again. Every hospital corridor holds thousands of stories like hers, some with good endings, others that still haunt you. As doctors, we see how the human body can adapt, endure, and sometimes betray. We also see how often people mistake symptoms for coincidences. We live in a culture that celebrates weight loss as progress, but the body isn't an algorithm or a number on a scale. It's a system of signals, and when it starts to shed weight without reason, that's not achievement, it's distress. Doctors are trained to recognize patterns, but patients live the stories that create them. Margaret reminded me that awareness doesn't begin in hospitals. It begins at home, in those quiet moments when you notice something has changed and choose not to ignore it. She caught her illness early enough for treatment to work. So many others don't. That's why I tell these stories, because somewhere out there, another person is smiling at their reflection, believing their unexplained weight loss is a gift, when it may be their body's first cry for help. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this: weight loss without trying is not a success, it's a symptom. It doesn't always mean cancer, but it always means something. If you notice a drop of more than 5% of your body weight in 6 to 12 months without any change in diet or exercise, please speak to a doctor. Don't wait. Don't explain it away. Don't assume it's stress or age. Medicine can't fix what it doesn't see, and the sooner we see it, the better your chances. Health isn't measured in kilos. It's measured in how your body feels, how it functions, how it heals. Listen to it. It's always talking, even when the message is quiet. Months after her recovery, Margaret sent a handwritten letter to the ward. It said, "Thank you for listening when I didn't. Thank you for reminding me that sometimes weight loss means something more than looking better. You gave me my life back. I keep that letter in my drawer. It's a reminder that awareness saves more than lives. It saves time, fear, and regret." She thought losing weight was a good thing. But what she didn't know, and what I hope you never forget, is that unintentional weight loss is one of the body's earliest warnings. Don't ignore it. It could be the sign that saves your life. Importantly, if this video has taught you anything, please remember to like and subscribe so it reaches even more people and more lives can be saved.